Doesn't matter.
AEW Dynamite Spring Breakthrough, April the 16th. I know a lot of AEW fans are big fans of this show. It was 99% pro wrestling, which is what they like. A whole lot of the people that they like. A whole lot of Will Ospreay, a whole lot of Athena on this show. Not a lot of promos, but somehow they still managed to get a little bit done. They got a debut and some actually good announcements. And we'll start with some of the announcements. They announced Grand Slam Mexico, which will take place in June. They will be holding the event at Arena Mexico. This is probably the coolest idea I've heard since the first All In. I actually really like the idea of AEW doing a show in Mexico. I think it's fun. I think them taking the Grand Slam brand to different countries is great. It exposes the product to different audiences, and since they work with CMLL, they'll be able to use CMLL's building, and they'll be able to use their talent to help sell tickets. So that's a great thing. If I were a cynical guy, I would say, well, there was some rumors that WWE was going to run a pay-per-view in Mexico, and first it was Backlash, then it was something else. None of this stuff is going to materialize, but AEW can do it and actually do it quicker because CMLL owns the building, so they can do whatever they want. And since it's a Wednesday, I don't think CMLL runs their shows on Wednesday, so it's an open slot. Now, I'm sure the show is going to be taped well in advance of its airing, which of course leads the opportunity for spoilers, but it's a very cool concept. And they also will be having a Dynamite in Scotland, which is also very damn cool. You know, WWE basically opening the doors for AEW to branch out, do some European stuff, do some stuff in Mexico, maybe South America. Who knows? Who knows what could be next, you know? And it truly feels like a global brand, which is good. I mean, TNA lacked that sort of cachet in terms of becoming a global brand. And they didn't spend a lot of money, but Tony Khan has money to spend. He's making the relationships, no doubt. Well, they already had a pay-per-view in Japan too, right? AEW. Didn't they do like a Forbidden Door in Japan, or they will be doing a Forbidden Door in Japan or something like that? So they got a lot going on. I got a lot to be excited about if you're a fan of AEW. At least there's going to be some cool and unique venues for people to see your product. Speaking of interesting things, there's nowhere else for me to put this, so I guess I got to talk about it right here. But Tetsuya Naito is leaving New Japan, and people are discussing should he come to the United States. Obviously, AEW would be the place that would probably have first dibs on him. That being said, I'm not sure Tetsuya Naito can even perform. I watched a tag match with him in it recently, within like the last month or two. He can barely move, bro. Like, he is one of the most broken down Japanese wrestlers in the business right now. Tetsuya Naito is only 2 years older than me, but he moves like my dad. That's problematic. And that says a lot about the Japanese wrestling style, where a guy is only 42 and his knees are rubbing together, and he has like no cartilage in his knees or something like that. It is insane. And he's only 42. When you take into account he's, I think, younger than Damian Priest. Like, that's insane. Anyway, let's continue. Is it possible that someone like WWE or somebody like AEW would be interested in him? Clearly, he would have value to AEW, as, again, they do run shows in Japan, or they are planning to. And Tony Khan seemingly has the sort of idea of keep him in the family, which I believe he said before is if guys leave New Japan, he'll absorb them. and they'll still be available when Japan wants to work with them. So if they want to use Naito in the future, he can still come to the United States, make some money, not do a whole lot, get paid decently, not be asked to do a lot in the ring, probably work tags, which is probably the best option for him anyway, because again, he's virtually immobile at this point. But do you really want to? Well, Tony Khan makes so much money, it doesn't matter. I mean, the family has so much money, he can be a rest haven for broken down wrestlers. There was a lot of jokes about Naito perhaps going to WWE, and I'm like, what is he going to do? Like, outside of the only option I could think of is putting him and Nakamura in a tag team. But both of them are so beat up and broken down. Outside of maybe being funny, I don't see what else they could do. So, hopefully he just retires and that's it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan just doesn't want him under contract for the hope, not only just to keep him away from WWE, which who cares on that front, but also to as a favorite in New Japan. But look at what's happening in Japan. It's a disaster over there. The top 4 guys in New Japan 10 years ago, most of them can barely walk today, and none of them are 50. Tanahashi, knees, bad, just down bad. Nakamura, I mean, Jesus, take a pick. Okada is the youngest of the bunch. He can still barely move. Omega just had like 15 inches of guts removed from his body. He's still, the most mobile of the bunch. But Jesus Christ, it's like every New Japan main event guy from 10 years ago. And that's not even that long ago. 10 years is not a long time, Maybe it's a long time in wrestling years when you wrestle this very high impact style, but look at these guys, man. They're all shriveled up like bacon. It's nuts. They cooked like bacon. Hey, I don't eat bacon. Stop eating pork, by the way. Also, for those of you who weren't paying attention, there's some stuff out there about Mariah May potentially leaving AEW and going to WWE. It's one of those things that I believe it when I see it. But she is a fan and she used to work there. So maybe it's an option, or she's just using it as leverage to make more money, which ultimately this is a business. And that might be the case. And if she likes working in Japan, which sometimes they do, it could be a good start. Now, the issue here with Mariah May, she had a hell of a run in AEW as world champion and a hell of a storyline with Tony Storm. The problem is that over? Do you have a second act? Do you have a second idea to make Mariah May matter? If you don't, then losing her is kind of like oh well. But if you do, then you might want to keep her on your roster. I just think that WWE has enough skinny blondes, even though Mariah May is very good in terms of character and stuff. She just doesn't look that different enough from Charlotte or Tiffany Stratton or whatever to be a striking performer. She and Tony was able to play off of how they look the same. So it worked out in AEW. I'm not so sure it'll work out in WWE. But hey, I don't know what's going on in that brain of hers. If she wanted to use AEW as a monkey branch to get to WWE, it could very well work. But I think in her case, she could be looking at burning a bridge. But we don't know. It ought to be an interesting time that a lot of people in AEW are disappearing and not showing back up. And they get a run or they get a match, and then they go to the back of the line, never to be seen again. Like Megan Bain, who I don't know where she is now. And like Athena, let's get into this review. Athena loses to Mercedes Moné. This match was 25 minutes. It was the second round of the Owens Cup. But let me tell you this. I will say this with all honesty. As much as I talk about Mercedes Moné having a bad attitude, as much as I think that her advocate, quote unquote, is a cult leader who has gotten her into magic crystals and spiritual schools and all this other flimflammery, this was a good match. And it was a good match for one important reason. For one reason that I really don't like Will Ospreay matches is that there was a struggle throughout the entire match. They made everything feel like it was an actual struggle. When they locked up, they did a collar and elbow tie-up. Believe it or not, the women are doing collar and elbow tie-ups. Most of the men don't even do collar and elbow tie-ups on this show. They're rolling outside the ring. They collar and elbow tie up each other up the ramp. A little cartoonish, but they get it. They're doing small packages, and they're rolling around in a circle, countering the small package. They were doing counters to the Tombstone Power Driver, the attempt to the German suplex on the floor, which was then modified to a sunset flip on the floor. Both of those were blocked. The fact that they were doing believable counters to holds, everything didn't look smooth, which added some level of realism to it. It had a level of intensity to it to a degree. Even though their striking is not the best, for the women, it was pretty good. And I have to say, the finish was really good. Athena went for her big finish, which I forgot what it's called. They call it the O face. That doesn't make sense. What does that mean? And Mercedes countered it. And she did a pin that I've seen Owen Hart use before. And actually, I think Shawn Michaels used it too. He went the feet under the armpits. And she sat down on it and got a nice clean 3 count. It was good. This was good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. The crowd was hot for it. They were actually chanting CEO this time. So it wasn't like no made up monkey shit that the crowd was, piped in or anything. So it felt genuine. They really put in the effort. But I think this was a mistake. And then I think they made even a bigger mistake later on, because they played Timeless Tony Storm's theme right after the match, before Athena had even left the ring, to do the stare down between Mercedes and Tony, basically rejecting and ignoring Athena in the ring. And a lot of the fans on the internet were saying, hey, she was undefeated in singles matches for 2 years or something like that. And she wrestles Dynamite for the first time in forever. And she loses to Mercedes clean in the middle of the ring. And they just move on. And I say that is a problem. In my mind, I thought, okay, this is going to be a trilogy of matches. At the very least, they're going to have more than one. But it seems like, okay, they had this one match and then that's it. That it doesn't seem like there's anything more here for Athena, which sucks, if we're being honest. Look, I'm not the hugest fan of Athena. I don't think that she has a hell of a lot of charisma, but she worked here, and she has some level of prestige within that universe in AEW / Ring of Honor. So you would think her losing would be a bigger deal, for starters. Secondly, you would think there would be more there between her and Mercedes. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything more to it. And it puts her right in the Megan Bayne category, the same category with others who you come in, you lose, and then you disappear. That's not how you build stars, man. That's not how you make people important. You make people important by showcasing them. Athena should have been winning matches on this show a long time ago. Even if she was going to be the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, she should have been on this show occasionally, defending the title, winning. At least so people who don't watch Ring of Honor can see her. It should have been some promo segments. That was a big issue for me. A huge miss. Now, look, Athena can't talk. But you still want to hear her talk. At least let her try, And it seemed like this thing had more legs to it. And it seems also now that you're just going to completely ignore it. And I think that's a mistake. To me, there should have been, or there is, some money in a title for title match. Maybe they'll get their head out of their ass and they'll pivot a little bit and say that since Athena got pinned by Mercedes, she's willing to defend her title against Mercedes. And I know that Ring of Honor has a pay-per-view coming up. That would be a good way to use Mercedes on that show, to boost ticket sales and get more attention. I've been talking about this for like a month now. And the match is, I thought Athena will probably win this match just to get Mercedes out of the tournament. But now I see that they're probably going to put Mercedes over in the tournament, which means that she's about to walk through the rest of this field. Fine. But I think that Athena should want to get a rematch and should offer her title as a way of getting a rematch against Mercedes. The only problem with that is Mercedes going to agree to do the job, which she probably won't. she probably will not. Also, I'm probably going to talk about this in a larger video, but it's on my heart and my mind right now. Mercedes did an interview with some kind of Boston radio station or whatever, where she talked about having a full entourage. She has like a documentary team that follows her around. She's got her cult leader advocate following her around, and these people follow her everywhere she goes. And she let it slip because she was asked directly if Tony Khan was paying for these people or whether she was paying these people, and she said AEW is paying for them. This means that Tony Khan is literally paying people to pamper and follow Mercedes around all day long. We have gone beyond the concept of money, Mark. This is just insane, right? Like, I can't think of any other. This is almost like Hollywood stuff, where you have to pay the entourage to be there. And usually, the entourage comes out of the talent's cut. He's paying for the entourage. That's insane. Why would he do that? And the only reason that you would do something like that, and I'm not going to be mad at him. It's not my money. But the only reason you would do something like that is if you don't value money. Like, I would not put that kind of expense on the books of my company. You want to have all these weirdos hang around you all day. You should pay for it. But we know throughout history that an entourage, when it comes to rappers and musicians and Hollywood types, they drain a lot of money. And oftentimes, once they've attached themselves to somebody, they drain and drain and drain. Eventually, that money's gone. And all of that stuff is gone. But if you attach yourself to the billionaire, well, the money is virtually endless at that point. So he's paying her an incredible salary in addition to paying for her entourage. Insane, bro. Absolutely insane. If she ain't fucking Tony Khan, she needs to. He needs to basically push the button. And I loathe to say stuff like that. But that was the only way it makes sense to me. I can't imagine you sat down and crunched any numbers and said this makes financial sense. I just don't see that. I don't believe you did that. I don't believe anybody who is responsible sat down and said, I'm going to pay you X millions of dollars, plus I'm going to pay for you to travel, and I'm going to pay for you to have an entourage. And you're only going to work 1 day a week, maybe. No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that. Either they fucking or something else is going on. Or either that or Tony Khan didn't read the contract, doesn't know what's in it, probably don't even know he's paying for it until it came out of her mouth. I can't think, and I don't even think he's that damn dumb. So at this point, I'm just going to assume they fucking. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I mean, it's a obvious goddamn thing to consider at this point. People thought it was ridiculous that he was paying her as much money as he was paying her. I'm just saying, hey, look, maybe he has a wrong idea of where her drawing power is. And it's not like she sells a lot of merchandise. I haven't even seen any Mercedes Mone merchandise. Have you? Haven't seen any action figures. Haven't seen any trading cards. I don't think she's in the video game. I haven't seen any posters. I haven't seen her sign anything. I haven't seen how he could possibly be making his money back on this girl. So the only thing I can think of is he's paying her all this money. He's paying all this for all of these other people. He got her a personal writer. Bro, they have to be fucking. How else can... It's crude. I might be way off base. But at this point, bro, I can't think of anything else. I honestly can't think of anything else. Let's continue. The other Owen Hart tournament match was Hangman Page versus the Wild Card. And the Wild Card was Josh Alexander, who got a pretty good reaction from the crowd. But Josh Alexander has all the charisma of a cold sore. I don't care about this. I instantly lost interest in this the moment he came out. Of course, Hangman won. He won with a small package. Hangman Page was confronted by the Young Bucks earlier, who accepted his apology for walking out on them during Blood and Guts, even though he didn't apologize. They expect him to win the tournament and bring them the world title. Then Okada told him he needs to smile and asked him why he's so mad. When Hangman walked away, he called him a bitch. Hangman then turned around and came back, and Okada was like, "Oh, no," and was backing down to him. I'm pretty sure, even though Okada spent, 15, 20 years taking bumps on concrete, apparently, with why his body's so shot, I'm pretty sure he could still handle Hangman in a fight. But the cartoonish no was actually very funny. After he pinned Josh Alexander, see you on Collision, Josh Alexander. I mean, you're a Collision cowboy all day, right? I mean, what's up with bringing guys in and then they lose their very first match? It is what it is. I mean, it's a recurring theme with the AEW. You come in, you get the guy, people excited to see him, and then he lose immediately, and then he disappears. We know that he's going to disappear. Well, he might not, because he was involved with the next segment. Kyle Fletcher came out and he got into a fight with Hangman because Kyle Fletcher is Hangman's next opponent. Don Callis started whispering to Josh Alexander because they're both Canadians. So they have a secret language that only Canadians speak. Or Don Callis flipped this special Canadian switch in Josh Alexander's neck. And he went over there and attacked Hangman and allowed Kyle Fletcher to get the upper hand. And that was that for this segment. They were trying to put some heat on this next match, but it's a tournament match. Okay, I can't complain. The Young Bucks want the World Championship. But this is weird because last week they said they wanted to team up with the Death Riders because the Death Riders was able to get the world title and they wanted the world title. So do they want to fight the Death Riders or do they want to join the Death Rider? I mean, what's going on here? Why is this not being made clear? It's not clear to me what the Young Bucks' intentions are or anything here. I don't know. Do I care? Not really. The Young Bucks they're nothing as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit about them. Nick Wayne and Christian had a segment. Nick Wayne said that Christian didn't follow the plan because he couldn't stomach the fact that Edge might become world champion before him. Christian told him that he was wrong and he shouldn't make assumptions. And then said that he liked the fire that Nick Wayne showed and that he got him 2 gifts. One was a spot in the Best of Super Juniors, and the second was an ROH TV title match versus Commander. And then he says that he hopes that Nick Wayne will not let him down. Then he smacked him in the face. It was a gentle smack, but it was a smack nonetheless. Very disrespectful. Wouldn't let it happen to me. All right, so Nick Wayne is exactly the kind of kid who should be on Best of Super Juniors and not like 40-year-old guys. That's like the majority of the tournament always. That's a very interesting spot. He gets to live his dream like everybody does. The ROH TV championship. It's just, that's Who cares about that? Oh yeah, they having a women's ROH pure title now. They just everybody's multiplying belts, just more and more belts. Just give them more belts. Lord have mercy. We don't know what to do. Print more belts. Just turn the belt print to go brr. Essentially. All right. So they showed footage of FTR on Collision, where they attacked and beat the hell out of 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. And said that they have been putting their careers on hold for Edge, and they're not going to do that anymore. Apparently, they've been fined and suspended for attacking 2.0 and Daniel Garcia and hitting them with power drivers. Okie doke. I mean, Swerve hit a dude with a brick. He didn't get suspended. You know, Hangman stabbed a dude with a syringe. He didn't get suspended. But power drivers get you suspended? Very weird decision making here. I don't know. Do I care? No, not really. Not particularly. They're trying very hard with FTR though, and it might be too late. I mean, FTR's heyday was a decade ago, you know, but they're gonna sit here and try to make this a hot team. The problem is that the tag team champions are a hot team and they're heels. The Hurt Business defeated the Gates of Agony. This was actually a tough challenge for the Hurt Business. They didn't go down easy, but then these are two big guys, Toa Leona and Bishop Khan, two big dudes, and who could be like the Powers of Pain for AEW, but they've been on this roster for so long and been jobbed out and beat to shit. I don't think they've ever won on Dynamite. You know, they're the Butcher and the Blade, you know, DEI version. But the Hurt Business win. MJF then showed up and said that Shelton Benjamin and Montel know what he brings to the table while others are slow learners. Lashley then proceeds to menace MJF while he runs around in a circle claiming he didn't say any names. Then he said he brought gifts and it was some hoes. He brought some hoes. He then said that they can have the hoes. All he needs is a thumbs up. Shelton Benjamin said that he needed more time and pointed to his wrist. And then MJF picked up on it. He's like, oh, you want my watch? And then Shelton Benjamin was like, yeah. And he said, well, I'll give you my watch and the hose. He didn't say the hose, but I'm saying hose because that's what they were. And Shelton Benjamin still gave him a thumbs down. That was because Lashley was staring at him. Lashley intimidated Shelton Benjamin into saying no. So MJF is very upset about this, but said he respects democracy and thinks that he's growing on Shelton and he's going to give him the watch and the girls anyway. So he does. Later, Lashley says he still doesn't trust MJF, doesn't like that guy. MVP said, well, that's personal. You need to understand that this thing with MJF could be business and it could get us closer to what we want. Now, he wants to go have a good time with these bitches. And all the perfectly heterosexual wrestling fans lost their goddamn mind that MJF had hoes on Dynamite. Again, you can stab somebody with a syringe. You can drink people's blood. You can do any and all kinds of ridiculous, disgusting, Ichi the Killer kind of shit on Dynamite. But heavens to Betsy, if somebody has some heterosexuality on this show, then it's disgusting, and my goodness, stop it. Just cut it out. This heterophobia, it needs to stop. Enough. I'm not even going to entertain this shit. It's a fun segment that was meant to be funny. It has nothing to do with fucking sex trafficking, and guess what? Women sell themselves for sex. They do. Alright? You probably got plenty of girls back there. Megan Bain got an OnlyFans. Tony Storm got an OnlyFans. Scott Blue got an OnlyFans. All these hoes backstage sell themselves for money. And you upset that some chicks are on camera flirting with Shelton Benjamin because, I'm a sex trafficking. Look, either they are adults with agency or they're not. And if women are adults with agency, which means they can make decisions, including bad decisions, then they can make decisions on their own. I'm not about to sit here and pretend that grown adult women are being mishandled here And if Mercedes is going to complain, because she's the type of person who would complain about something like this, she better remember that Tony Khan is paying for her spiritual advisor, or whatever the fuck he's calling himself, to hang around and fluff her wigs. She better shut the fuck up. Moving on. Will Ospreay wrestled Konosuke Takeshita in a match that was so long and filled with so many kickouts. This is exactly the match that their fans wanted. You know, there was a spot in this match where Takeshita kicked out of the hidden blade at 1, and everybody was super excited, and oh my god, this is such a great match. It's the greatest match of all time. Look, every Will Ospreay match is the same, as far as I'm concerned. It's all just dance routines. And this was not much different. Takeshita can have different kinds of matches, but apparently Will Ospreay cannot. Will Ospreay matches are the very opposite of what the first match was. Like, what I liked about the first match, Athena and Mercedes, is, again, it felt like a fight. There was some level of intensity and there was a level of struggle. It felt like two people fighting and jockeying for position. And even some of the spots, when they were doing spots, they were kind of clunky. But here, the spots are extremely smooth. But because they're so smooth, there's no resistance. And because there's no resistance, it's not a struggle. It's not a struggle. It's not wrestling. What it is you have a dance partner. This is a cheerleading routine. And every Will Ospreay match is the fucking same. This match is going to get 10 stars or whatever. And it's going to be forgettable in 2 weeks. Like all the other Will Ospreay matches. The finish comes with Will Ospreay countering the Raging Fighter into the Styles Clash. Only got a 2. He hit a second hidden blade, 1-2. And then later he hit his Os Cutter. Is that what that move's called? The one where he spins people off his shoulder. I don't know what it's called. He pinned him with that. And that was it. It's all dance routines with Will Ospreay. All dance routines all the way down. The main event are the Ops fighting the Death Riders for the Trios title. The Ops replaced Hook with Powerhouse Hobbs, and the Death Riders replaced Pac with Jon Moxley. I didn't watch this match. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend. I never pretend on this channel. If I didn't watch it, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch this. I had no interest in it. Didn't care about it. I saw on Twitter that Jon Moxley got choked out by Samoa Joe. Therefore, the Ops are now the Trios champions. I didn't even know it was a Trios championship match. And no doubt this was the build to Samoa Joe versus Jon Moxley as a singles match, which is the right decision to go in. Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe could be a really, Moxley sucks. Moxley is not very good. But if anybody can get anything out of him in terms of intensity, Samoa Joe could be the guy. Now, they're not going to go out there and have probably the most brutal match in the world. I don't think Samoa Joe is going to want to put himself through what Moxley wants to put people through in terms of deathmatch bullshit. But if you want to have a stiff, intense, heavyweight championship match, Samoa Joe can do that at his age and not put forth a hell of a lot of effort. He can do that. So, out of respect, I'm willing to put some emphasis on how interested I am between Moxley and Joe, but ultimately I'm not really all that thrilled about another Jon Moxley match in general, and I don't care about these trios titles. Sorry to say. Anyway, Dynamite was probably a wet dream for those of you who are fans of AEW and fans of professional wrestling in general. But for somebody like me who cares more about storylines and character work these days than what people are doing in the ring, there's people like Megan Bain disappearing, Kevin Knight disappeared. So many people that were brought onto this show that you didn't hear from, you didn't see. There was no furthering of their angle or storyline at all. There was a lot of emphasis on that Owen Hart tournament and a lot of emphasis on, things with the Young Bucks and the Hurt Business. Just not enough storylines about, or keeping people relevant, keeping people, in the front of your mind. Too often they let people fall to the back, fall to the wayside. Let's close with this. Eric Bischoff congratulated Tony Khan on the success of Dynamite. He said he doesn't watch it anymore, and he doesn't think that, Dynamite surpassing Nitro matters, but it matters to Tony. So he said he congratulated him. Tony Khan, of course, has been celebrating that Dynamite surpassed Nitro and is the longest running primetime pro wrestling show on Turner, because people reminded him that WCW Saturday Night existed. WCW Saturday Night, it ran from 1971 to 2000. That's almost 30 years. And it is the longest running wrestling show on Turner. When that was brought to their attention, they're like, no. Look at the fine print. We got to underline the word prime time, because 6 o'clock, well, that's not prime time. 6:05, that's not prime time. Prime time starts at 8 o'clock. And he was like, oh, okay. So you want to have all these qualifiers? You want to have all these qualifiers in order to throw yourself a celebration? Look, go ahead. I'm surprised that there was not a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of chest beating by Dynamite on this show. There was not, any shots at WCW or anything like that. But they wanted to celebrate the event and let it be known that this is what's happening. And Bischoff did a good job of basically getting out in front of it, saying, congratulations, I don't really care about that, but you guys sure do. And it needs to be said again, and it's true, he didn't own the company. Bischoff did not. He was one of the co-creators, but he didn't own WCW, and WCW didn't go out of business because of anything Bischoff did. In fact, again, Bischoff had been removed from power on more than one occasion while WCW was in operation. That's back in the days when you had standards and practices and people actually paid attention to what was on the product. TNT today, TBS today, they don't even pay attention to what's going on Dynamite and Rampage and Collision and all that stuff. It doesn't seem like they even care. This is why you have hoes on the show. You've got people bleeding all the time. Just some really ridiculous stuff going on the product. Cursing, the F word and all that, fuck, and all that sort of stuff going on. And that stuff never would have flown in 97 or 98, but it works today. So he has a lot of advantages on top of the fact that it's his company. I'm talking about Tony now, and it's been funded from his trust fund. Unlike, again, Bischoff, who had a boss. This just needed to be said, but Bischoff got out in front of it. I think it was very big of him to basically just say, congratulations, you did it. Now what? And so many other people are just saying the same thing, like, okay, now what? Dynamite has run longer than Nitro, and it's had less memorable moments than Nitro. I mean, it is what it is. It's facts. It had less of it had a sizable impact on the business. They did an article on the Hollywood Reporter talking about how they beat NXT, which is, Tony Khan no doubt beating his chest. Unfortunately, I think if NXT was a run on Tuesdays now, Tony Khan would be in trouble. I think he'd be in big trouble. They don't have nearly the star power that they had on NXT back then too. And also Dynamite isn't nearly as new, which means that so many people were curious back then about what each week of Dynamite was going to look like. That curiosity is gone. Everybody knows what AEW is now. Well, at least everybody in the wrestling space. They're not converting new fans anymore. As much as they're fighting to get back the people that they lost. But it's a milestone, I suppose. Is it something I would celebrate? Well, yes, I would celebrate that, considering the situation between Bischoff and Khan. I would celebrate that, considering they've been going back and forth. But again, Tony Khan started it because Bischoff was there to help him at first, remember? And then Tony Khan took a shot at Ted Turner, and Ted Turner, of course, is a really old man. And Bischoff stood up for the honor of Ted Turner, and that began this feud between the two of them that ultimately Bischoff had no chance of winning outside of Tony Khan going out of business, and that wasn't going to happen either, because there might be a not zero stake from Warner Brothers in AEW, which of course they're trying desperately to keep under wraps. Remember, they put out a statement saying that nobody owns more than 10%. Very suspicious, but ultimately Tony Khan got what he wanted out of this deal, which is a long-running wrestling show. I think that this show satisfied his fans. I think that most people who are not hardcore AEW fans probably didn't even make it through the rest of the show. And I barely made it, to be quite honest. That Josh Alexander Hangman thing almost put me in the ground 6 feet deep. And that Takeshita Ospreay thing certainly made me bury my head in my phone and look up. Every time I looked up, Ospreay was running around somewhere or doing some kind of jump. It's just, it's just every single time. But their fans like that shit. And there's something to be said about their fans who like their style of wrestling. And I can't knock it. You know, I knock it every week, basically. But I'm saying is that people are allowed to like what they like as long as what they like is not illegal. And it's not illegal to be stupid. Therefore, it's not illegal to like AEW. And good luck with your with watching this stuff in the future. AEW will also be having their Collision show on Thursday because WrestleMania and NXT have bumped them off of Saturday. So it means that Collision will be competing with TNA's Unbreakable pay-per-view, which was also bumped off the weekend due to excessive amounts of competition from people like GCW. Basically, as everybody finds their way into WWE's orbit, they each are trying to find ways to be profitable. And TNA is running a pay-per-view this weekend and basically going to run it on Thursday instead of running Dynamite, Impact, I guess. So that's going to be an interesting bit. Maybe I'll watch that on Friday morning or Friday afternoon or something. But Collision is going to be out there for all of you Collision watchers. It's going to come on Wednesday and on Thursday this week. Have fun with that. I, on the other hand, will more than likely not be watching Collision because I don't watch Collision. Now, everybody else, thank you for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.